So, why did you join the military? I know.
Well, I joined the military because I was bored and I had nothing else better going on, and I kind of saw it as a way out of my normal routine of life, being 18 and no job, no aspirations, nothing to do. And the military had a lot to offer, and so I just walked down there and joined.
So, what was your first experience like?
Joining the military?
Yeah, right after first. Yeah.
Are you looking for?
No, right after training.
Are you looking for some harsh experiences, something that may cause PTSD or?
Yeah.
Well, there's several. My first tour of duty in Iraq, it was in 2003, 2004 at the height, right at the tail end of the invasion.
Yeah.
But just because they said combat operations was over doesn't mean that combat was over. You know what I'm saying? During the time we were there, they had us set up a forward checkpoint, inspecting vehicles. But during that time, one of the biggest threats that was out there for us was, the suicide vehicle-borne IEDs, which is, they basically take a car and they lace it down with bombs, right, and they drive it up to your post and explode, right, because the number one target is U.S. personnel, right, and that's the easiest way to do it, is to just blow themselves up at your post, right. So there's that stress every day, having to go out and check a car, because you don't know if today's gonna be the last day. You know what I'm saying? Going out there, stressing out, checking every car as it comes through. In a typical car, you'd find AK-47s, you'd find RPGs, and that's pretty standard for the Iraqi people because that's what they use for self-defense. So you can't get too upset about that. But there's always that chance that someone's gonna drive up to your post and it's gonna be something a little more like grenades? artillery shells, or something that explodes, right? Well, in 2004, what they were doing, the operation in Iraq was changing. They wanted to start building up a local police population so that the Iraqis can police themselves. And the base that I was operating out of had set up like a police academy, and they were hiring Iraqi civilians to come on and go through a military civilian type police academy, right? Well, when the first class was being grouped together, right? The Iraqi instructors, mixed in with some American civilians, were outside our checkpoint, and they were gathering together the local population that were coming together for the first day of academy training, right? So myself, another Lance Corporal, I was a sergeant at the time, and our staff sergeant was out there to kind of do like a public relations kind of meet and greet, but at the same time had to kind of provide some security and rush these dudes on, because they were living during a dangerous time, because during that time we were getting hit with rockets and mortars, and snipers were taking pot shots at our post all the time, So not only were we trying to be politically correct, but at the same time, we're telling these dudes, hurry up and get on the boat on the base, because you guys are a big target, So we're standing out there and we're rushing these guys along, and I remember the Lance Corporal that was with me, he had told me, he says, hey Sergeant, look at that car over there, right? And I looked down the road, and there was in the line to come on through the checkpoint was a taxi, an Iraqi taxi, and you can tell Iraqi taxi because they're usually a white car with orange fenders, right? Yeah. But something was out of the ordinary about the car. It didn't look like a standard taxi. It looked like someone, like a child, had taken finger paint and painted over the fenders. So something was kind of fishy about it, right? So I remember ordering my guys. I says, hey, we're not going to let that car on, right? That car's going to sit out there, and we'll see what happens, right? So after a few minutes, I kind of forgot about that car, and my focus is now on these Iraqi guys, police officers that are, kind of screwing around in our parking lot. They're taking forever to get on the base. So we draw closer to them, and we start yelling at them, hey, let's go, get on the base, You guys, the longer you're out there, the bigger target you are. So we're standing there, and the instructors are gearing them up. They got their lists out there. They're going through all, they're speaking Arabic. I don't know what they're saying, and they're going through and they're checking off names. At least that's what they're supposed to be doing, right? Checking off names, and they're sending them on, 10 at a time, because going through a checkpoint, you're still going to get patted down. You're still going to be checked to make sure that you're not bringing any kind of contraband or anything like that on. So it's still a process, but we're trying to hurry up and get through the process. Well, what I didn't realize is, as we're yelling at these guys, is that taxi cab or whatever it was, right, had gotten out of the vehicle line, right, and had turned around and drove around and entered the area where all the Iraqi police were at. Right, and what it did is it had kind of gone around and parked at the back of the lot. Well, I didn't notice it. We didn't notice it, but we had a 50 cal machine gun that was behind us. That was kind of like securing the road in case anybody got kind of crazy and they drove through our checkpoint. Then we got a big heavy machine gun that would take care of a threat. Well, he kind of yelled at us and said, "Hey, that weird vehicle is on the move, and it's acting kind of fishy, to kind of keep an eye on it," right? Well, we look up and we look to see where it's at, and we see it kind of hovering in the back of a parking lot behind all these Iraqi police, right? And I remember turning to my Lance Corporal and I said, "Hey, keep an eye on that car." And just as I said that, that vehicle had turned towards the Iraqi police and basically accelerated. And it went right into the formation of police. It ran over probably half a dozen, five, six people, and then exploded. Right. Well, by the time it all happened within a matter of a few seconds. So maybe 2 seconds, maybe. From the time I looked at the Lance Corporal and I said, "Hey, watch that vehicle." That vehicle was already accelerating towards the police, and by the time I looked back, it was already in the middle of the formation. And as I looked up at it, I remember seeing it explode. Right. Well, that explosion, because of how close we were, sent a group of the Iraqi police flying, because the overpressure from the explosion basically blew a big hole where all those policemen were at, and then knocked us over. But the fortunate thing for us was that there was a small barrier between us and them that was probably about 3 feet high, and if that hadn't been there, because it sent the overpressure of the air that was displaced because of the explosion, it sent it up over that berm and kind of disangled it. So we didn't get hit direct on from the overpressure, because we were close enough that it would have killed us. But instead it sent us off our feet and gave us all concussions and kind of rang our bell a little bit, right? I think all in all, I think there was like 60 plus wounded, from shrapnel, from various different things, and 23 had died instantly. Were basically blown apart and blown to pieces. But I think the worst part of that whole situation was the fact that it was so early on in the campaign. You're talking about 2003, 2004. It was so early on. There was no ambulatory. There was no ambulance. There wasn't really anything you can do. You just watch a bunch of people out there, picking up their loved ones' body parts, and people are scooping and running to local hospitals, and there wasn't really anything we can do, right? Because the threat is so great that you're taught that if there's one, there's always two. You know what I'm saying? Because of all the intelligence you get, they don't just stop at one. They will daisy chain them. They'll do one after another, right? So there wasn't anything we could do. And I think the worst part about that was that affected me the most was the fact that seeing all that carnage. It wasn't the explosion necessarily, even though there's times where the explosion it kind of gets to me. I think the worst part was the fact that there wasn't anything you can do to help people that were in desperate need of medical help and desperate need of help. There wasn't. All you can do is watch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. I think that was probably one of the main things that kind of affected me the most. Right. Was not being able to help. Right. Also with my current job. Right. There was an incident where a drunk driver had ran over a 3-year-old and dragged her body. It was a little baby girl, and dragged her body probably a mile and a half. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Dragged her body about a mile and a half, stuck in the wheel well because he ran over a wagon and it got scooped up into the wheel well, and he just basically took off and ran from the scene with all these people chasing him and everything. And I think those two events probably affected me the most in my life. That they're like always like right there at the forefront of my brain, and they never go away. You know what I'm saying? And I think that any kind of PTSD I have comes from that, is from things like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's just the amount of stress of you not just,
Not
the
doing
horrors
anything.
of the world, and you just really can't. You're just it's out of your control, and you can't really do anything about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. I think that's enough.
Sure.
Yeah.